Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, folks. Hey, welcome to another episode of the Marketing Your Practice podcast, the podcast where I get to simplify the marketing and the mindset so you, the chiropractor, can increase your income, your impact, and your enjoyment in practice too. In today's episode, I'm joined by two email marketing experts, Jason Deitch and Jeff Langmaid from The Smart Chiropractor. And they're here to share their insights on how email marketing can be a powerful tool to promote your practice. Now, we cover a range of topics, including the basics of email marketing, why it's such a powerful marketing tool, and how you can use it to communicate effectively with your patients. Now, we also discuss the type of emails you should be sending, how often to send them, and what kind of content you should be including to maximize your return on investment. Now, as you'll soon learn, email marketing, when used properly, is one of the most powerful ways to reach your patients and to continue to educate and build strong relationships. So if you're ready to take your chiropractic practice to the next level, sit back, relax, and let's dive into this episode. Jeff and Jason, welcome to the Marketing Your Practice podcast. How are you, my friends?
We're doing fantastic. It is great to see you again. Awesome to connect, and apologize it took so long to do so.
It might have almost been, it was at least 4 or 5 months ago that we had a chat there too. And I said, let's get back and do the, and then it completely caught me out of the blue with the booking. I went, oh, fantastic. So it's a pleasure. Better late than never as well. And the two of you have been incredibly busy. Yours are the emails that I enjoy reading each and every week when I get them. And there has been lots happening. I'm going to talk lots about email today. In particular, Jason was saying beforehand, sometimes there's an over-obsession with us as chiropractors trying to reach more new patients instead of going out to the ones that already know, like, and trust you as well. So let's start with this. Why should chiropractors be using email as a part of their marketing arsenal?
It's a great question. I think if we look at it from the data, it's the highest ROI marketing activity that you can utilize. So if we look at it straight from the data, that is just the facts. However, there's a second layer of that, and it goes towards what we believe is a foundational philosophy of everything we do, which is teach and invite consistently. Email is a great opportunity. It's a great medium to teach, engage, inspire, educate, invite, call to action type stuff, and do that consistently. And Jason, this ties into really reaching out to your most valuable patients, which is a critically important component of this, right?
It's really a core part of our philosophy. Most of us learned in early years, make new friends and keep the old. And as you mentioned earlier, Angus, the idea here is many chiropractors do get obsessed with needing more new patients. And we liken this to the concept of having your practice metaphorically be like a bucket. And if you've got holes in the side of your bucket or no bottom of your bucket, you can pour as many new patients into your quote bucket/practice as you want to, and you'll never, ever fill it up. So email, what we're doing with our system, is really designed to address exactly those things. That if patients come into your practice, that they stay through and follow through with their initial care plan. And more importantly, if they fall out of practice, which many people do, whether they get good results, don't get good results, whatever, their life gets in the way, that you have systems in place to automatically and consistently stay in touch with what we call your most valuable patients, the people that have been into your practice before, know, like, and trust you, as we'll say over and over and over again, that for whatever reason discontinued, should be back. And having systems that teach and invite, emails that go out on a regular basis, not just as sales pitches, not just as desperate announcements that we're creating an event because we need to be busier, but a real generous gift of an expert teaching people what they need to know about their health, about their bodies, about their lives, so they come to the conclusion, oh yeah, I should be going back to see that doctor. And that's really what the new system is all about, is reminding docs how simple it is to re-engage people to come back into your practice with these easy implementable systems that are proven effective every time.
So Jason, you've touched on it there, and then Jeff introduced us to the idea that in terms of a return on investment, email outperforms everything. Before we kind of dive into the specifics, how is it that, because lots of chiropractors I talk to are confused about it, how is it that I can, from a business point of view, generate more income into my practice from email?
Yeah, I'll tackle this one, and I can tackle it based upon some of the stats that we see in addition to some of the levers that you can pull. So here's just the brass tacks. Currently, we work with over 300 chiropractors, and we send over 1 million emails a month. I say that because it gives us the opportunity to really have fantastic data as far as what's going on. So to put that in perspective for everybody listening and watching, on an email list, our average email list size for our average client is 1,200. That's average. We have some people at 300. We have some people at 3,000 and more. But I want to put this out there. For a list size of 1,200, we see 26 reactivations per month based off of that list size using our automations. So that would be setting the expectation. Do you have a list size of 2,400? You might be leaving 50 reactivations on the table by not utilizing email. If you have a list of 600, it might be 12 or 13 each month. Now, the way that we do that, Angus, is very specific. We look at the patient journey and converting more of the traffic from your website into new patients, utilizing a new patient pop-up. That's step number one. Step number two is welcome and onboarding during those first critical 2 weeks of care. And then the third are weekly email newsletters that teach and invite, so that you build that consistent stream of reactivations. As Jason mentioned with the bucket, we think of reactivations like putting a bottom on the bucket. Otherwise, the water's flowing straight through. And many chiropractors have that going on. We view retention or onboarding like the sides of the bucket. You might have big Swiss cheese size holes in the side of your bucket because people aren't completing their active care plan, when a new patient welcome or onboarding campaign can improve that retention. And then the water in the top, the new patients, gosh, we see chiropractors, I'll let Jason speak to this in a moment, that are getting tons of traffic to their website and converting a minuscule amount. And it's like, man, you're paying for SEO, you're paying for a website, and you're leaving a lot of these people, Jason, as you like to say, at their door. I'll have you dive into that a little bit, because I think it's an important component.
Yeah.
Angus, it's a great question. There are really three, we've referred to them as most valuable patients. And that is, as Jeff just said, those people that make it to your website. And there's two types of people that are going to make it to your website. Those that are ready to call you and schedule now, or fill out a form and schedule now, and everybody else. And when you dig deep into the data, we've seen different reports that basically say most chiropractors are receiving an average of between 500 and 1,000 visitors to their website every month. And that's just typically through search engine optimization, organic search, not even including paid advertisements, which would make those numbers much, much higher. Ask yourself, how many people are you actually having come to your practice specifically from your website? I've never heard a chiropractor tell me they're getting 100, 200, 300 new patients every month from their website. And yet the traffic is getting there. So at some point, we've got to use some common sense and go, okay, whatever number of people are actually ready to call, click, and schedule now, that's great. But as I call it, people are knocking at your door. Nobody gets to your website, for the most part, randomly. As Jeff says, nobody cruises chiropractic websites for fun, except maybe the two of us. If they're there, it's likely because they're local and are looking for a chiropractor. And for whatever reason, they weren't able to make that decision in the moment. What this new patient pop-up, basically, we've all seen them. You've been to a website, you leave the website, and it goes, hey, before you leave, put in your name and email address and receive something valuable. In retail, typically it's a discount. In professional areas, we believe the appropriate thing is more information. 7 days to heal your neck pain, 7 days to heal your back pain, or whatever story you most want to tell. Give people who visit your website, who aren't ready to schedule in that moment, the opportunity to learn more, put in their name, put in their email address. And that's where the magic really begins. So that's really what I'll call most valuable patient number one. Then there's most valuable patient number two. Those are the people that say, okay, sounds good, let's get started. And they'll follow your initial care plan. We've seen that up to 20%, I believe that number is actually much higher, up to 20% of the people that start care do not follow through on their entire recommended action plan, your care plan recommendations. They fall out of care. That can happen for a variety of reasons. One, they start feeling better and go, oh, I'm better, I don't need to keep going. Two, they're not feeling better. And they go, this isn't working. I don't need to keep going. 3, they had life get in the way. They didn't know how to reschedule. They had a question about finances. They weren't sure what your actual hours are. They had a question you didn't answer. Whatever it may be, there's lots of reasons why people start care, don't complete care. What we've seen is by having what we think of as a world-class welcome experience that systematizes and automates all new people that start care in your practice to receive a consistent message personalized by your practice. So we write it, we create it, we send it. Every practice can personalize their message for their frequently asked questions, their hours, their specialty, whatever things they want to make sure people who start care in their office know. And it takes a tremendous amount of stress and pressure off the staff, off the team, and gives the doctor tremendous confidence to know basically everybody's going to get a consistent message. For even better results, you can add videos, you can do all kinds of things to just make sure people who start care have a higher percentage degree of continuing with their care plan. So that's most valuable patient number 2. Those who go, yes, let's start, making sure they follow through, that increases your retention. And the third most valuable patient, as we mentioned, just to repeat it, are those people who are in your EHR system that have not been in, or your inactives that have not been in a while. We're not just talking about, calling those people that missed their appointments last week or last month, but many chiropractors who've been in practice for more than a few minutes have hundreds, if not thousands of people they've seen over the years, in many cases, decades. And we think of them, we think of it as chiropractors are ghosting your patients. You're not following up. You're not staying in touch with them. And that's just insane. Those are the people that have been in to see you. They likely had a positive experience of some sort, and they are the most likely to want to come back and understand. But again, for a lot of reasons, they don't. Maybe they thought you were only good at neck pain. Now they have back pain. They didn't connect the dots. Maybe they're embarrassed because they didn't follow through on their care plan because you didn't have a world-class welcome experience, and they don't feel right because they didn't follow through. Whatever the reasons are, staying in touch with your people with this teach and invite consistently format really has been proven effective. And again, you mentioned ROI. We track the clicks that go to your call, to whatever phone number that you put into our system. We track the clicks that go to your scheduler or your website or however you take online appointments. So you can see the proof that there's activity going on and people get back into your office. And it's awesome. We sort of say, Angus, we want to be the technology that drives more people back into chiropractors' practices than any other technology out there. That's our goal. That's our hope. And so far, it's working really well.
Yeah, that's exciting. For those that might want to have a go at this themselves, what are the ingredients of a welcome series? How many emails? Over what length of time? How would I go about putting something like that together myself?
Yeah, a couple things there, Angus, that I think are important. And we think about this in the first 2 weeks as being really critical. This is when there could be those friction points. So in our experience has been 7 emails over the first 14 days is a great place to be. Here's an example of some of those. Email number 1 should be day of first visit. Ideally, they're leaving the practice and walking out to their car, their phone vibrates and they get a welcome email. Hey, welcome to our practice. We're so glad you're here. We are going to do everything we can to meet and exceed your expectations, right? So email number 1 is on day number 0, so to speak, right? That should be the day of their first visit. Now, as those first 2 weeks go on, I'll throw out some examples of other topics that the emails that could be based upon. Some of those might be around directing to your most popular social channels. Many docs out there have started with your help. You've helped so many docs shoot better video, really understand how to get out there. And from our perspective, we don't care whether you're into Meta platforms, TikTok platform, YouTube platform. Utilize these individuals and showcase to them where you're active. So we believe that one of those emails should be stimulating engagement. Let people know where you're posting awesome content so that you can build your audience there. They can become more engaged, etc. Another email is going to be addressing frequently asked questions. These are friction points. We want to improve retention. So how do you know the frequently asked questions? Pretty easy. go to your front desk and say, what are the questions we get most common? It might be hours. How do I reschedule? Whatever your front desk tells you is the most common phone calls they get. Take the answers to that and those questions, put it in an email. Put that as probably email number 3, let's say, so that you're addressing frequently asked questions. I like to have an additional email highlighting the benefits of care, reinforcing the buying decision, so to speak. So that's a great one, showcasing, we are here for you. These can be very simply put in terms of language, but it's a powerful message to get out there. A couple others I'll highlight very, very quickly is we are big on having, at the end of around that first week, a feedback email. Our goal is to exceed your expectations. Please click here to let us know if you are thrilled, or click here to let us know that we could improve. Now, this is separate than a review or a testimonial. This is internal feedback. At the end of that first week, the patient has probably had a couple visits. They are feeling better. Let's make sure that their patient experience is maximized. And then, of course, as you get towards the end of that second week, that's when you're going to be looking towards those reviews and testimonial type calls to action. So to sum that up, we like to use 7 emails during the first 14 days that, span the gamut. I'll just kind of, play whack-a-mole here with a couple different of the topics, but a welcome email immediately, a frequently asked questions email would be another example. Highlighting the benefits of care would be another, a feedback email, a social engagement email, a review, and a testimonial email. That is a really nice, complete first 2 weeks. That gives you the opportunity to wow your patient, collect valuable feedback, maximize that opportunity. I, half jokingly, not jokingly, always say, the side effects of a great onboarding campaign are more reviews, more testimonials, and more referrals. Because when people are wowed during that first 2 weeks, it's just such a critical time. Jason, anything I missed on that?
You got it.
Some people might be concerned about the thought of 7 emails. Isn't that too many to be sending into overwhelming somebody's inbox? And then I know later on, while we're addressing frequency, you also talked about what I would refer to as a nurture sequence, that we might be kind of speaking to people once a week. Where does it fit in, and what has your research shown in terms of frequency?
Yeah. So a weekly email newsletter for reactivations, long-term nurture, as you described. Weekly is the best cadence. Many docs, if they do anything, are monthly. And what we have seen is your engagement, your open and click-throughs actually go down when you're doing monthly as opposed to weekly. Now, I want to give a caveat here. 1 email a year is too much if it stinks. Right. So the goal here is, yes, if you are emailing every other day, coupon, discount, look at me, coupon, discount, look, that gets old real quick. An email a week is welcomed when it's in a teach and invite format. Now, one separate thing that you brought up is the initial onboarding. That onboarding, we have found that, and we see some docs might pull 1 email out of this series, right? So there is a little bit of variability based upon personal preference. However, I would say the same thing. When you deliver a welcome experience of 7 emails over that first 14 days, this is when people are typically, they came to you for a reason. They're struggling with something. They want better performance. They're trying to get out of pain. So guiding that journey during those first 2 weeks with consistent communication that reinforces the idea is absolutely important. That's also why those first 2 weeks, everything we talked about was about them, right? Welcome to the practice, answering their questions, highlighting the benefits, helping them get better results faster through the communication is an extension of what you do with the conversations you're having within the 4 walls of your practice. So subject lines matter. Body copy matters. That stuff does matter. That's where we have a tremendous amount of experience. But I would look at it from the lens of, if the email is serving the individual. I receive emails every day from some companies that I love. I receive 1 every 3 months from companies that I unsubscribe from. And often it's a great indication of the quality of the content and is it serving me?
Yeah. One of the things that I always had in my practice is in that very first email was to just set the expectations. And it was, over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be emailing you frequently to make sure, to give them the benefits of why they're going to be getting the emails there too. So that was something that I learned from the crew at Digital Marketers, just to set the expectation to begin with. And as you mentioned beforehand, it's always a quality game. The same, I ask questions in terms of, how often should I be posting on social media? Well, how often can you post really great content? So it's a quality game first, but ultimately, as you mentioned there too, a quantity of quality will always will win in the end there also.
Yeah.
So we've talked
Angus,
about
Angus, let me just mention really quick to your point. We do have some docs who do receive emails or phone calls that say, stop emailing me. It will happen. There will be one or two that will go, that's too many emails. It shouldn't be much of a concern because, again, if you're following the context of what we're saying, you're doing it out of an act of generosity and service, not out of need. And if somebody's not happy to receive any of your emails based on service, it's okay for them to get off your email list. So every email that goes out, if you're using the right systems, will have what they call an opt-out option, a click here to stop receiving emails. So people have the ability to no longer receive them. If they call you or email you and sometimes get a little disgruntled, just be patient and kind. It's not for 100% of the people. And the sooner those people that say, stop emailing me, say, stop emailing me, the sooner you've got the confidence to know that everybody else is actually happy receiving the emails. So it's kind of a good thing to cleanse and filter that out. It's not something that you should go, oh, one person called me out of the 1,000 emails I sent and I shouldn't do this any longer. That creates some context. And I just want to reiterate, you nailed it. Setting expectation is the key. Nobody goes, why does the New York Times keep sending me emails throughout the day, all the time? It's what you expect from them.
Yes.
So setting up an expectation of here's what you're going to receive. Here's why you're receiving it. If you don't want to receive it, here's what you do. If you have any questions, let us know, is exactly what creates the gratitude for putting forth the effort to make these communications possible for people.
The unsubscribe is something that scares a lot of people. I'm sure you, like me, every week that I send an email, I have a number of people unsubscribe. Every week there too. And it's interesting because I want to have a list of people who want to hear from me, first of all. And second, every week, as Jeff talked about before, I'm unsubscribing from lists as well. Doesn't mean I dislike the person. Doesn't mean I think they're terrible. I'm not upset with them. It's like, just not now. Exactly. So the vast, and of course, there will be exceptions of the cranky person in the same way there's the exception that occasionally you'll get a troll online, but it happens so infrequently that a lot of effort and energy tends to go into it. That's unnecessary. Let's talk a little bit more about the nurture. So we've gone through, there's a welcome series that again can be all automated each time. And then after that, they're going to go on to what we talked about. I call it a nurture sequence. Do you have a name for what you call those ongoing?
We call them weekly email newsletters that drive reactivations. In marketing terms, nurture is A-okay with us 100%.
Great. So in those, what sort of, so we're teaching as a part of it too. What sort of things are we sharing? How long should those emails be? What should be included in them? You talk about a newsletter, which often kind of has lots of different bits and pieces and images and stuff like that to it. What are the ingredients of a great nurture campaign?
There's a couple of things that I think are critically important. One starts with having a great subject line. And the point of a subject line is to stimulate curiosity, not to say everything that's in the email. So you don't want to bait and switch. You don't want it to be totally different than what they're expecting, or else then you might have a high unsubscribe rate because you're not delivering on your promise. But your subject line is a promise of what's to come. The goal of a great subject line is to stimulate curiosity. And the singular goal of the subject line is to get them to open the email. So that's step number one. Now, step number two is what's in the email. We think about our emails through the teach and invite consistently philosophy, and we think in terms of monthly campaigns and weekly topics. So if you're trying to sit down and write 52 random things, that's super hard. It's probably not going to happen. So the way that we think about it are what are 12 monthly campaigns, one for each month, that are the most highly searched topics in and around chiropractic practice. I like to say, how do you proactively answer the questions people in your community have about their health? So 1 month might be around the cervical spine. 1 month might be around sports performance. 1 month might be around the low back. You pick and choose depending upon your ideal patient. Then each week would splinter down a subtopic on that monthly campaign. So for an example, the cervical spine might have a week devoted to, is my arm pain coming from my neck? It might have a week devoted to ergonomics and computer bit, how you're sitting at your desk. So you can then splinter down every monthly campaign into a weekly topic, and that builds out your campaign flow. And in terms of the setup inside of the email, we find about 350 words is great. But Jason, spend a moment talking about design and how we break that up within the email so that it has maximum impact.
Yeah, I think the main concern a lot of people have is that it's not words, a block of text that nobody's going to read. That will not happen. You can have the secret to the universe, but if it's not laid out right, people are not going to read it. So that is an important thing to basically pay attention to and address. What we put out for our clients, number one, is very brief and to the point, because people are on their email. They're not reading a novel. It's not a Kindle book. It's a quick something. And we sort of reverse engineer it. We literally start with the bottom line. Here's the point. Here's why it matters. Here's an action step. And here's the science source that supports what it is that we're talking about. That's the teach part. But here's where it gets super valuable. There's always the invite part. And this is, we're going to kind of dig deeper here, because this is where a lot of chiropractors, I think, mess it up on either one extreme or the other. They either want to teach way too much information and are afraid to then follow up with a call to action, what we refer to as invite, or they don't spend any time teaching anything and they're all about the call to action and invite.
Yes.
And the key here is, we'll say it over and over again. We'll even give you the acronym so you can never forget it. It's TIC, tick, teach and invite consistently. And so once you've shared something in a quick, what we'll call beautifully designed, research-based format, they then have very simple but yet big options. Click to call, because a lot of people are reading on their devices. Click to schedule. A lot of doctors have online scheduling or a website to request an appointment. And so you learn something, you can take an action step. It's all trackable. That's very much how it works. Docs appreciate it because they know something great is going out. People appreciate it because they're like, wow, I didn't know that about myself, about my health, about my life. We just recorded one on motor vehicle accidents and whiplash, and the connection, not just being a personal injury practice, but just about everybody at some point in their life has had some sort of trauma and injury. Teaching people the connection between what may have happened decades ago and the symptom that may showed up minutes ago is a valuable thing for people to understand, start connecting the dots so they can understand why your care is so valuable and powerful. And it's just something like that week after week after week after week.
Is it best, Jason, to have them consuming all of the information in the email? Like if there's more detail to go into, do we direct them back to a website, to a video, to socials, or is everything pretty much done ideally in that 350 words?
It's a great question. I'm going to answer it from two perspectives. From our company's standpoint, we don't sell work. So what we provide is a done-for-you automated campaign for most docs who aren't going to put forth the effort you're describing and talking about.
Yes.
Okay. So for the most part, this can be totally automated, and most of our docs appreciate that it's totally automated. However, there's no question, for best results, you use what we put out there sort of as a prompt for you to be able to go deeper into any topic you want to or don't want to. So it's sort of a base layer to know I'm getting information out to all of my people, but there may be some topics sometimes, or all the topics all the times, that doc goes, you know what, I'm going to do an even longer video about that because of my technique, because of my background, because of my experience, because of patient testimonial experience on this particular topic or category. And for those doctors who are willing to do something, this is a great way to sort of use use it almost as a calendar, as a prompt for what content they could be creating if they're willing to be a content creator, which unfortunately I just have to say is not most of them. I wish it was most of them.
Yes.
Most of them just want, can you just do this for me so I can stay busy doing what I love most?
Yep.
And it works very well that way. But to your point, if somebody's willing to put forth the effort, absolutely adding, whether you want to write a longer blog post about it, whether you want to do a video, whether you want to interview people about this particular topic and do videos together, whether you want to use these as topics for your podcasts and you interview other professionals that you work together, it really opens the door to all kinds of possibilities. The concept is teach and invite consistently. Email's the way to do it. Anything you want to build above and beyond that can only help the more you're willing to put forth effort and energy.
I'll throw some candy out there to our listeners. I used that exact strategy to take my chiropractic website that was ranked deep on page 3 to the top of page 1, and it never left in an incredibly competitive area. I had an email list when I started this of about 3,000, which I never used. And I was trying to work out how to get my site ranked number 1. And then I did a little bit of research and found out about that one of the things that Google is looking at is, does anybody come to your site? And then how long do they spend on there? So this concept of dwell time. And it said that people go to websites where there are videos and they hang around on them longer if there's videos. So I made a weekly video and I went, okay, how do I get people to watch it? I've got 3,000 people on my database. So I sent an email to my patients each week and say, hey, I created this video. I did a poor job of what you were talking about beforehand. But in those days there, we had an open rate of a little bit under 50%. We don't quite get that now, but let's say out of that 1,500 people were opening and we had a click-through rate of about 5%. So that's 75 people. So I had 75 people going to my website each and every week and they'd spend 3 to 5 minutes there. I did that for 6 months and it took me from page 3 to the top of page 1, and we never left. And I didn't pay any big dollars to any SEO companies. I didn't do any of that sort of thing at all. It's a brilliant and strategy that still works as well today. I've had many chiropractors duplicate my results, depending on how competitive it might take a little longer. But that might be a reason why you would want to tack on top of to what Jason and Jeff do to teach as well. So that worked very, very well. A reason to perhaps put in some effort also. What are some of the mistakes that chiropractors are making if they're going at this alone? What are some of the mistakes that they're making that's getting in the way of them seeing the sort of results that you're seeing when you're implementing this for them?
I think it starts with just not understanding that the money is in the list and it's probably the most valuable asset. We have a slide that Jason and I present on. It's a chiropractor kind of standing on top of this fictional mountain of gold, looking out into the distance at the new shiny thing. And It's like, should I be spending a ton of money on TikTok? Like, do I need to run ads on the social media place that started yesterday? You can if you want, but man, get a foundational layer of email marketing underneath it all. It'll actually, we can go off on a tangent on this, but it'll actually drive down, similar to with your website, you can drive down your lead cost if you're doing paid advertising by utilizing email. It can supercharge every aspect of your practice. So to answer your question cleanly and clearly, the number one thing for me, Angus, based upon what you're asking, is the number one mistake chiropractors are making is not understanding the value of the list that they have and not doing anything with it. And that is just a travesty because it's bad for business and it's bad for the health of your community. How, jokingly, I always say to Jason, I'm like, what's the alternative? Not doing it. Like that's not good for anybody. So, to me, Jason, you can certainly chime in here. To me, the number one thing is just not doing anything and or looking for the new shiny thing, not realizing or understanding the value of what you have that can generate income for your business and revenue week after week, month after month, year after year of compounding benefit, and can actually make literally every aspect of your practice run better, from website to leads, from advertising to retention to reactivate. I mean, you name it. That's the number one by far. And it's overly simplistic, but that is the number one by far for me. Jason, anything comes to mind for you?
Yeah, absolutely. In addition to that, I'll simply sort of say, kind of based on that philosophy, is that chiropractors, in my opinion, have been marketed to by marketers that marketing equals advertising.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a very limited form. It's sort of similar to saying, chiropractors are, chiropractic is great for back pain, but that's it. Well, that's far from the truth, right? Just like advertising isn't limited to marketing isn't limited to advertising. Chiropractic isn't limited to one thing. So when you think of marketing, instead of thinking about advertising, we recommend you think about teaching your community about who you are, the services you offer, the benefits they can experience by receiving your services, which you really can never say in an ad. So not to put it down, but to really reframe that marketing is really a service. It's teaching people about who you are and the benefits they can experience by working with you. And if you get it from that standpoint, your question is, what are the common mistakes? Well, until they understand that, they're making mistakes on their subject lines. They're making mistakes on their copy. They're making mistakes on the visuals of how they're laying out the information. Now, like I said it, yeah, but it doesn't look very good and nobody's going to read it. They're not connecting the dots as you did brilliantly. It's like, okay, I sent an email. Well, send an email about engaging with you on social, or post something on social that encourages people to go to your website and either opt in for something or watch something, so they can create this sort of organic ecosystem where everything builds and benefits on the others. Your email can improve your website standing, as you just said. It can improve your social media engagement, as we're talking about. Those two things can increase your email, and it really works together as an ecosystem, but all based on generously sharing your truth, your specialty, your passion, your story, and again, the benefits people will experience by not just coming to your practice, but staying with your care over a long period of time.
Most of us have experienced ourselves personally that perhaps the attention in our own emails has decreased, and you don't have to search too far and somebody will tell you that email is dead. How would you respond to that?
No. So the answer is this, Angus, is that have email open rates and click-through rates declined from 20 years ago? Yes, they have. But this is the most stable, ship crossing the ocean, the largest ship you could ever imagine. Meaning, unlike we see people with the paid advertising, Jason say, we see variability of 10x. And like, man, it used to be 5 cents a click 18 months ago, and now it's $5, 1,000% increase, or whatever the case might be. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but people have seen huge swings. Email, yeah, it might be a couple percent less than a decade ago, but talk about the opportunity and stability of the network. And I'll put this in very, very clear terms. It also depends upon the subscriber list. So we recommend for all of our docs, I recommend to everybody, don't buy or rent list. But when it's your patients, our average, we have docs that today, we've looked at this data. We're happy to open it up. If anybody wants to email us, I'm happy to just give you a screen grab. We have members that are still achieving a 50+% open rate. Our average across 300 accounts sending 1 million+ emails per month is 32% and change on an open rate. So when you're writing great subject lines to engaged audiences and doing it consistently, then you will see a very, very high result that is far more stable than nearly any other marketing activity you can do. Ties back to the first thing we talked about. That is why it is ranked as the #1 ROI marketing activity, because it has such abject stability. And internally with our company, we'll be totally transparent. It's why we tell our docs, we give a 3x ROI guarantee on everything we do. I think we're nice guys, but it's because we know our data. And it's not just because we're nice guys. It's because we know the data shows, quite frankly, that our docs are averaging a 10+x ROI month after month. We guarantee 3x, and that gives us a heck of a lot of buffer. And it gives also a lot of assurances to the docs that we work with, because we know that this is such a stable platform because it has been around 25+ years. And yes, there have been incremental decreases over time, but with some of our docs still achieving 50+% and the average being +30, hard to argue with those numbers.
Angus, I'm just going to answer that from a slightly different perspective. And that is, again, to just sort of reiterate, this really isn't email marketing. Email marketing tends to imply you bought a list, or you ran some sort of win an iPad contest and you got a bunch of emails of random people, strangers who have no relationship or connection to you. That's, quote, marketing. What we're talking about is emailing the people, your own clients, your own patients, the people that are paying you or have paid you already. And that's just being a responsible, good doctor, a person who cares. And that's why we see, open rates of 30%, 40%, 50%, is because you're not marketing to them. You're staying in touch with the people who are already your clients. They just haven't been in a while. So that to me is sort of the difference between, I've heard it, email marketing is dead. Buying a list, renting a list, spamming people doesn't work. Agreed? But keeping in touch with your people always works. That's the difference.
I think kind of pivotal to this conversation really is the idea that marketing doesn't stop once the patient comes in the door. That's really what we're talking about. And to some extent, greeting our people with a smile and having your practice clean and running on time, these are all marketing. Everything that we do to some extent is sharing what it is for our brand. I want it because in terms of a comparison, just another thing to throw at it, because you might be thinking only 30%. Well, in terms of social media, if you're knocking it out of the park, you might be getting somewhere between 7 and 10% of the people. So if you've got 1,000 people following you on your Instagram list, if you've got 10% of them that are seeing it, then you're doing an extraordinary job. The other thing, can one of you touch on too, the idea of one of the great things about email is that we own the list and we're not subject to somebody else's rules as well. So can one of you explain that concept and why that's another valuable thing about email?
Yeah, I like to say it's a controllable marketing asset. You control it, and it's an asset. It's an owned asset. You own the list, you control the communication, and you are able to reach out in a very, very impactful way on your terms. As Jason would say, I'll steal his thunder right now. You're not worried about who stole my cheese. Did the algorithm change last night and all of a sudden all this work I put in, my account shut down? Or all of a sudden, gosh, I used to reach 1,000 out of 1,000, and now all of a sudden 3 days later it's 3 out of 1,000. There's impact that can be made across social. Don't get me wrong. I think every doc should be out engaging on social. However, that doesn't take away from the fact that with email, it is a list of people. It's a controlled marketing asset. And I say asset for a very specific reason, and I'll tidy that up before I kick it over to Jason, which is I believe that your email list is the most valuable asset that you have in your practice and in your business. And I will put that up against the building that you own. The building you own, you might pay, and it might create a ton of equity, and you sell it one time when you're ready to move out. Maybe you rent a room along the way to somebody else. Your email list is something that can our clients use it literally 24/7, 365 for their entire career. And it generates profit and revenue for the business in a patient-centric way. And I would argue that at the end of your career, that increases dramatically the value if you are in the exit mode of your career. And not to take this too far and jump off the end of the plank here, but if a practice came to me and said, I have an email list of 5,000 that we are in consistent communication with, here's the stats and data of how we've done, here's how we get consistent reactivations, that practice even then will hold more value than one that has a bunch of paper records that have never been communicated with. So to me, it is an absolute essential and bar none, the money is in your list. It is the most valuable asset you have in your business. Jason?
Yeah, I'll clarify a few things just to make sure people are hearing this right. It's not just the number of people that you have on your email list. It is the fact that you've built a relationship and connection, and that you are connecting, teaching them something on a regular basis. You're building value with those people. And to your point, Jeff, and just to elaborate, it is an asset because, let's just call it for what it is. There are people, Angus, people, I know people, we see them online all the time, that literally have a computer, an email list, and make millions of dollars every year They don't have a practice. They don't even provide a physical service. It is by sharing what they know on a consistent basis that they can either provide online services and or endorse and recommend other people's products and can generate monthly recurring revenue simply by building a relationship with your list, keeping connected with them, not in a let me sell you something new kind of way, but let me teach you something new kind of way. And for those people that are interested in learning more about fill in the blank, weight loss, lifestyle, posture, anything that relates to the world you're in. I was watching a video, in fact, of a chiropractor friend of mine who was interviewing and teaching people about hair growth. I was watching it. Jeff, I'll forward it to you.
The three of us could probably get on that one. So
exactly.
Yes.
But he had hundreds of thousands of views on YouTube teaching something that people care about. And I'm now, going to buy some of the products he recommended and so on. So your email list is literally your business. Yes. The fact that you provide care in your physical practice is the way you currently have it set up. But the mindset, extrapolating it out, we're not saying anybody should stop being a chiropractor. We're not saying that. But we are saying there will be a day that for whatever reason, you can't or don't want to go back to your practice and you need to figure out some sort of ongoing revenue. And it's great to own real estate and great to have investments and so on. But the idea of sharing your knowledge, sharing your passion, I know between the three of us and thousands of other chiropractors, some of us love this profession and love what we do because we love the concepts, we love the philosophy, we love the ideas. It's not just the outcomes and, oh, well, this worked better than the drug and it was more effective clinically. We love teaching people about themselves, about life, about health, about physiology, about how to re-understand and recontextualize the innate power we have to heal ourselves. That's not an advertisement, and that's not even just an adjustment. It's an understanding. And wherever you are with that concept and consciousness, sharing your message on a consistent basis with as many people as you can, and your email list is the one place that you do have that control, unlike any other. That doesn't mean you shouldn't do all the others. It just means it is the one place you have control to teach and invite consistently and learn how you can, in whatever way is appropriate for you, monetize that for whatever your benefits are. Some people want to do it for charity. Other people want to do it as a sort of insurance policy that if they get injured in their practice, they've got a supplemental source of income that if they want to retire, if they get injured, whatever it may be, it's maybe the season or phase of their life. The most valuable thing a chiropractor can do is be building their list and building a relationship with the people on their list so that they add value to their lives. And in time, momentum takes over and people start sharing and referring and sharing more. And there's a momentum effect that just automatically helps you grow the more quality you put into what you're teaching.
Yeah. Well, I think on that note, I can improve on any of that as well. If somebody's interested in finding out about the patient pilot system and the amazing work that both you and Jeff do, where's the best spot for them to go to that?
Yeah, the easiest place for everybody to visit is thesmartchiropractor.com. Again, that is thesmartchiropractor.com. There you'll be able to see an explanation. You see some examples of what the emails that we send look like. You also have an opportunity to book a demo. Our team is happy to really walk through it one-on-one with you. So you get a super clear understanding of answering any questions that you have, showcasing the benefit or expectations in your practice. So we love that as a mode, but if you want to skip the line and get going, you also can just do that at thesmartchiropractor.com and get started immediately.
Beautiful. I just want to finish with this for our listeners. What Jeff said before is that they have a vending machine that you can put $1 in and they promise to give you $3 back or they give you your money back. Gang, get on it. Okay. I've been talking, I'm 300 episodes, and if you look back through there will be dozens on email. Some of you are doing this yourself and some of you want somebody to help you do it. If you're wanting somebody to help you do it, here's an incredible track record and two wonderful people as well. Jeff and Jason, thank you so much for joining me. I look forward to chatting again real soon.
Thank you
Thank
for
you
having
so
us.
much, Angus.
If you've enjoyed listening to this podcast, you have to come and check out my Community Influencer program. It's my monthly coaching program where we take all this material and I'll work with you to help you apply it, implement it, and systemize it. The Community Influencer Group Coaching Program is designed to help you increase your practice income, impact, and enjoyment. Join me over at anguspyke.com/join. That's anguspyke.com/join. I'd love to see you there.